But after the Indonesia trip, we are back here again in Malaysia. Honestly, it's so exciting to see them again.
Coming back to Malaysia after almost 5 years of my resettlement, it has a lot of mixed emotions.
I was actually born in Malaysia, so coming back here actually to advocacy for the Rohingya, it's really great and a beautiful experience. I've known that Malaysia, because of how large the population of our community is, things are bound to go wrong and potentially issues will be exacerbated because of how big the population is.
My family and I, we faced an immense hardship in Malaysia. I didn't have any access to education when I was in Malaysia. I spent a lot of the time hiding in the jungles of Malaysia. So coming back to Malaysia, seeing that key issues that I faced as a Rohingya 20 years ago is still ongoing.
So we came to Malaysia. We're hoping to actually find out where we could fill in the gap. We're trying to see which way we could help make it better or connect people better or try to fine-tune different approaches so that our community could be best uplifted. Currently, we're heading off to Penang from Kuala Lumpur. We're supposed to be there for about 3 days. We're going to first visit some local civil society organizations there, but also we're going to connect with the Rohingya community that is there, the various anti-trafficking groups that are working, those including the Rohingya that are working on this, 2 members of parliament to basically discuss, the legalization of work and access to public school. We're also hoping to visit the grave of the Rohingya trafficked victims. Penang is a very strategic place. Not only is it around almost like the front line of all these Rohingya response, because this is almost the first door into Malaysia, Indonesia. Rohingya are being trafficked into Malaysia in this way, through the Andaman Sea, through the Bay of Bengal. We want to be able to have direct interaction with people here, because yes, we can kind of imagine what things are going on the ground, where this is the front line and where a lot of securitization response happen, where people maybe push back at sea, like what happened in Indonesia.
I was refugee once in here, and I was not allowed to go to school, and I only went to first grade, I think, or pre-K. So coming here, my goal will be to actually get the Rohingya kids to go to school in order for them to achieve education.
Meeting with my old friends, it is bringing me back a lot of memories of working together, connection and friendship.
So I was displaced in Malaysia for 8 years and a half.
Returning to Malaysia is always a deeply emotional experience for me. On the other hand, it's also a place of immense pain and fear, where we were constantly hiding and living in the shadows. It's heartbreaking and frustrating that after all these years, so little has changed for refugees in Malaysia.
Lots of women from our network are actually raised here, worked here, grew up here, born here. And they've gone, out there in the world and have done a lot of positive and wonderful work for the betterment of our society. Now, those who are already in Malaysia, those who have not resettled, are also part and parcel of this economy. And so it would be in the best interests of Malaysians to actually acknowledge and legalize, work for Rohingya and access to education and access to some level of healthcare by that extension. because then there is accountability that can come with it.
When I return, I'm reminded of the sacrifices my family made and the resilience we had to muster. For us, resilience meant adapting to survive. My mother drilled us on how to hide during police raids, making sure we knew our hiding spots by heart. It was a struggle, but it was also a lesson in strength and survival. When we finally resettled, that same resilience helped us build new lives, pursue education, and advocate for our community that are still trapped in similar situations.
These victims are from, the victims of human trafficking ring or human trafficking network from 2015 along Thai-Malaysia border. And there are about 120 plus people or 120 plus remains of, different Rohingya person. 22 women and the rest are men. I think about 6 to about 10 or 12 minors. All of them are now in this grave. The most important thing that I take away from being able to visit this memorial site is that when I took the sisters to visit, they had initially not really known that this was actually not named, that the plaque that was on top of their grave did not have names but numbers. And it's dehumanizing. Even in your death, you have no names. You have no one to acknowledge you. It is a sombering moment for me to remind me why I am working the way that I do and why our work is necessary.
It was a very emotional moment because, remembering those who struggled and passed away in the process. What's really hurt me the most was the people who has been killed, who has been tortured from the human trafficking, and their name was not even in the grave. And that's something that really, they're not even identified by their name. And imagine their family members still looking for them, still probably hoping for them to come soon, but they're unaware of it. So that's something that made me really heartbroken, seeing that and how our people had been suffering this whole time.
We just arrived last night to KL from Penang, and today our first sort of order of business is to come and visit refugee-led, community-led school that's run by our community members, the Rohingya community. And this school is called Al-Ikhlas School, and basically they're housing about they're teaching about over 200 children. Various different age groups and primary school mostly. And this is the effort that was started by our Rohingya brothers and sisters It's been ongoing for about 10 years. They fundraise or self-funded, fundraise among their own community members and those outside.
Another memorable moment was when we went to Al-Ifla school and met the children. When we walked right in, they were so happy, they were smiling. And we also walked in the middle when they were singing. So, they were all loud and I was like, wow, like, look at these happy, bright children. And in the beginning, it kind of, I felt awkward. I was like, oh, I'm older.
I was very, very teary all throughout. I think this reminds me so much of myself when I was younger. We were quite isolated when I was younger. So we weren't raised among other Rohingya. And I realized the struggle at that time was, how do I get myself out of this cycle of poverty and cycle of abuse that is systemic? I wouldn't be able to change it myself, but how do I get out of it? This all reminds me of myself, but also reminds me of those children in Arakan, in Rakhine State, where we've had some initiatives and some community-led, community-run school. And these children barely have consistent educational access. And they were exactly like this. They would just be very, very consistent, very dedicated. I think all of this just makes me feel quite emotional. About how much struggle they've had to go through and their parents would have to be put through in order for them to even get here, in order for them to be able to have access to some remnants of, access to education.
Seeing the kids here in the school just remind me how grateful I am in life. My dad used to struggle where he had to provide our 4 siblings, and if one person go to school, the other person can't go to school because of the fees will be an issue and everything. So my biggest struggle while I was here is that going to school, I was the Rohingya kids. Everybody can tell that. So getting bullied, go back to your country, you don't belong here, stuff like that. I will always come. The first person to come to the class will be me, because I just sit in the back of the class so nobody sees me, and I'll be the last person to leave the class. I always try to avoid people not to see so they don't say anything to me, because at that time people just say stuff it would really hurt, and I would not go back crying at home telling my mom I don't want to go to school, I don't want to do this, because I know my parents are struggling and they're trying all this for us to just get education.
So right now we're at the Saiful International School football field or soccer field. And there is a friendly football or soccer match between Somali and Rohingya teams. We're actually sponsoring part of this is to create or to actually start the work on social cohesion through something that everyone share in terms of love for sports.
Find somewhere you can come home to. Find someone that'll die for you. 'Cause it's all that really matters in the end. It's love, love, love. 'Cause it's all that really matters in the end.
It was really fun. We were so used to being the serious meetings, but this time we were able to sort of let loose. We were screaming and cheering we were very biased. We wanted Rohingya team to win. Yasmin was screaming from the top of her lungs, and we were just cracking up. It was a really nice time for us to bond as sisters, as members, and also to connect with our communities. And the Somali team won. We were a little bit devastated, but it was fine. It was a friendly match, and it's part of our social cohesion. And they were very friendly. We gave out medals at the end to the winners and to the losers. But yeah, it was a really nice day, and it ended really, really beautifully with such a light ceiling.
meeting with UNHCR rep of Malaysia, also his team was great. I appreciate that the UNHCR representative of Malaysia spent actually 2 hours and 45 minutes with us. The first an hour was meeting with the staff from the protection unit of UNHCR. We speak about the protection issues of Rohingyas in Malaysia, which is not very new. The old problem still getting worse. Protection issues in terms of challenges to going to work or getting access to education, getting access to medication, and also livelihood and many others. So the discussion, they listened to our discussion really with respect, and then we could also deliver the message from the community, because prior to that meeting, we had meeting with the Rohingya community themselves in Penang and Kuala Lumpur. The meeting that I enjoyed the most, I loved the most during these trips, were the meeting that with my community, with our community.
The biggest highlight for me during this mission was meeting the women from our community. We had an informal gathering where we sat in a circle with plastic chairs and tables. We had some biryani. We chatted about who we are as a people. We shared some jokes. But they told us some horrendous stories about how they escaped to Malaysia. Some of them had to hide in the jungles and watch their family die and get shot. Some of them lost their children along the way, their way to Malaysia, because their children died from starvation and health issues. So, but besides the horrifying experiences, besides the sad stories, we also sang some songs, some Rohingya songs. We also danced, we laughed, and we were able to be together as one. And this was a very rare moment.
So what I realized, or the biggest thing that I realized for Rohingya refugees here in Malaysia, is that they want to integrate into Malaysian society. They want to work for their money. They want to help contribute to Malaysian society, but they're just not able to. They're blocked from that, So they want to coexist together, and they want to live peacefully with each other. And then from this experience as well, I also got some time to reflect on myself and how I can do better as an advocate for my people, and what things I should focus on, how my approach should be, and kind of it gave me more sense of direction and a more sense of purpose for continuing this work.
I met with this Rohingya of women in KL. Like, we were speaking amongst all those Rohingya girls, said that my husband doesn't have a job. He was working, and now he's not working for a few months, and because of that, my kids cannot go to school because I cannot pay for the fees. That's the only thing they ask. That's the only thing they are struggling with. Some of them been here like over 40 years, 30 plus years. So imagine being in a country for like that long, not having access to education, not having access to healthcare properly, and no protection. Anybody can just do something to them, hate them, kill them. There's no protection on them. But I feel like there's a long way to go. It's a long way ahead of me that I have to learn and grow. How can I help the Rohingya community? Not just Rohingya, other refugees that need help. And how can I give back? Our people deserve peace, and they deserve the peace. But I'm not giving up. I'm just gonna continue pushing myself, because I know I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for all the Rohingya children.
So light your matches, and I will rise from the ashes, from the ashes.
I have been so blessed to actually see my sisters from the network. We regroup again, reconnected again, And it was like no time has ever passed. It is bittersweet because we got to meet so many wonderful Rohingya women and wonderful Rohingya men who are working so hard. At the same time, it is so difficult for them, the effort's already been put into this, into the issue, into improving it. But things are not moving as fast as we wanted it to. It's bittersweet because we don't see the result right away. And as much as we're sad to leave the conditions the way it is, we're also happy that we got the opportunity to be here in the first place to eventually make a difference. And hopefully we will.
A part of home I never got to see. Genocide, tyrants, thief. Knowing my heart will always ache for a touch of this faded memory, a little bit of connection, family. What price should I pay to get back the stolen history?